So now that we're back, I want to run through, excuse me, I want to run through the entire watch list this morning so you can see which pairs made the list, why they made the list, and why we haven't traded most of them so far this morning. What's going on with these setups? I think that going through the watch list should give you guys more context to the importance of not trying to trade every pair every day. You should be going through, building a watch list of a few select currency pairs, or if you're trading stocks, a few select stocks, and really focusing in on them, finding your setups within those pairs that are already setting up in your favor, putting probabilities in your favor. Now, all of this is prefaced with the idea that you have a checklist or you have a system of rules to look through before you take your trade. So this morning, CHFJPY made the watch list. Why? Because the market sentiment line, as you can see, is bullish today. It's been in the buy zone all day. It's perfect for that buy zone level that we're looking for. So that's why this has been on the list. The reason why we haven't traded this, however, is because it's still trading within the Asian range. If you mark off the Asia high, all it's been doing is throwing resistance pins to that level since it was set last night at, 8, 9 o'clock. So we haven't traded this yet because it hasn't broken out of the Asian range. If you tried to buy it and you were trying to buy the breakouts, all you'd be doing is getting burned. So you just don't do anything with this. You come back to it later if it ends up breaking out of the range. We go look for something else. Euro GBP made the list this morning. This has a perfect market sentiment line in the sell zone, as you can see. So this was great for shorts today. However, up until the last 15 minutes, this has just been floating off the 8 EMA. When it's floating out here, some people will try to trade it. It's just not where I find my edge because very often you end up not getting a great price. It ends up chopping and sometimes even reversing and stopping you out. So I don't like to enter off the 8 EMA at all, really. So Euro GBP today hasn't done anything for us since that downshift last night. So it's on the watch list because of the perfect market sentiment line, but no trade on it so far today. Euro AUD, Euro CAD, they haven't made the list today. Euro AUD, as you can see, still in the Asian range and swapping market sentiment line. Not very clean. We've got better setups than that. Euro CAD, it's out of the Asian range, but is swapping market sentiment line. Sell zone into buy zone into sell zone. Even though it's in the sell zone here more than it's in the buy zone, when I see this happening, I'm going to go look at the other CAD pairs and see if they're set up any better. That's what pushed me to GCAD today, and that's where we found our trade. Euro USD, sideways today. If you look at it, you can see it's still trading within that initial Asian range here. Set at one, I take that back. I got to adjust this. Sometimes this indicator is a little funny because different pairs are in different time zones. Got to adjust this right here. There you go. So we did break the Asian range to the downside. We've got this resistance zone down here. I would box it like that, right? Got a resistance support zone, whatever you like to call it, key level down here. Looks very sideways. And the fact that it's got this swapping market sentiment line to start the day kind of confirms this sideways movement today. The 800 EMA is on top, so it could be coming into a downtrend. If we can break out of this zone and move lower, maybe that sets us up for shorts tomorrow. But when I saw this morning, still looking sideways and with a swapping market sentiment line, it's just you don't need to force anything on it. So we'll keep looking. Euro NZD down the 8 EMA. As you can see, it's not doing anything on it like an entry candle formation. Market sentiment here is swapping as well, so nothing on that. Now we'll get into the pairs that made the list. GCAD made the list even with the swapping market sentiment line because out of all the pairs with a swapping market sentiment line, this one was the closest to being ready for a trade. It's in the buy zone more than the sell zone. It looks like it's in a short-term uptrend, like it wants to head higher to the 800 EMA, way up here, as you can see. So that's why we were interested in buying this today. And that's why we ended up making a little bit of money on it. Not a huge winner, not like some of our big rips like we've had over the past couple of weeks, but managing it the same way because I had my stop loss locked in profit, still able to be a nice winning trade right there, even on a C setup. GBP AUD made the watch list this morning because of the perfect market sentiment line. I didn't like the 800 EMA going flat across the screen. So that's why I didn't do anything with this today. And as you can see, it hasn't really presented a solid entry. Right here, the 8 and 21 EMAs cross up, but the RSI was not through the market sentiment line at that time. So it wasn't a proper A1 entry. So we can't do anything with that. GJ had a couple of people looking at this 2-candle formation. You can see the market sentiment line is very bullish today. The reason why this is not an A1, and I can mark this up just so everybody sees it, the reason why this is not an A1 is the RSI, as you can see, is not through the trend line. The RSI does not come through the red trend line until 4 candles later. So this cannot be qualified as a proper A1 entry. In order for it to be an A1, it's more than just a candle formation in our backtesting. It's mostly about this TDI. And because the RSI was not proper, we're not going to consider this a valid trade. But it is something that will get marked up. It is something that I can understand why it would induce you, and it's nice if it won you some money, if it made you some money. But in the future, you don't want to just be taking candle formations. You want to make sure you're waiting for the RSI value to be proper. Okay. GBP NZD. Market sentiment is bullish, but look at price action. Price action shifted down here. 8 and 21 EMAs crossed down. When they cross down, all it's been doing since then is making lower lows and lower highs. So why would I try to buy it, even though the market sentiment says to buy it? If price is making lower lows and lower highs, I'm not doing anything with it, especially now that it's in a downshift. If I was going to buy this, I would need it to shift up first before we could look for longs. That's where I'm finding the highest probability trades. GBP CHF did not make the list. Swapping market sentiment line. EMAs weren't clean. GBP USD, swapping market sentiment line many times today, so that was not clean. USD CHF as well, swapping market sentiment line, didn't want to fuck with that. And USD JPY, swapping market sentiment line as well. So I didn't want to do anything with that. That's how I narrowed the list down to perfect market sentiment lines, trending EMAs, and tried to make my money there, which is what we did. That's where we were able to make money on GCAD today. So now you guys see kind of what goes into building the watch list. And now that I have it narrowed down to these 6 pairs, I can even come up here into TradingView, click red list, and then I'm just looking at those 6. That's it. And just cycle between these, waiting for them to set me up with an entry because I know they're the highest probability setups following the ASFX edge to start the day. And I don't want to go back and be like, oh, Euro USD, it is swapping, but now it's doing this. Let me add it to the list. No, that just makes things more confusing and distracts you more. You're going to fall in line with the pairs that start to make your watch list every day. And you'll notice some days GCAD, GA, GBP, NZD, whatever pairs it is, they'll be on your list back-to-back days because they're in trend and you can trade in that same direction. So I think knowing how to build a proper watch list is huge. Knowing how to work that proper watch list in your favor is even more important. What I mean by that is don't get distracted and be patient. Don't get distracted by lower probability potential entries on other pairs. Be patient and wait for the entry on your pair. You've heard me say it many times. Don't go forcing the market. Let the market come to you. Let it almost drop into your lap to the point where you feel like you need to be in this trade. There's too many reasons to not. There's not enough reasons to not be in the trade. There's nothing talking you out of it. So you've got to be in it at that point if it follows your rules. All of this is based on the idea that you have a checklist and you have a system that you're following, not just like an emotional feeling of like, oh, I should buy Euro USD right now. That's not a system, but I'm assuming you already know that. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, I'm going to take a sip of water, and when I come back, we'll answer some questions.